to do something. Think about like that's our brothers. I know Marjan all the week with their brothers.
That's right. That's right.
I'm serious.
Indeed.
Serious.
Indeed, Sheikh.
They need to get help, Sheikh. I'm serious.
I agree, Sheikh. Wallahi.
Yeah. The worry we don't want that not speaking us to this totally serious.
Bismillah.
Inshallah. No, let's do a little Marjan, inshallah. Sheikh Khan, please cut on the mic. Can you please cut the microphone on?
Oh.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تمسك بهديه واقتفى بأثره إلى يوم الدين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. I believe the last chapter that we did was speaking about Salat al-Asr and Salat al-Wusta, and after that the virtue of Fajr and Asr prayer, the superiority and excellence of sticking to those prayers. Then we came upon chapter number 38, Babu Bayani Anna Awwal Waqt al-Maghrib Inda Ghurub al-Shams. Chapter 38 says the mention about the commencement of the time for the Maghrib prayer is immediately after sunset. It says here, Babu Bayani Anna Awwala Waqt al-Maghribi Inda Ghurub al-Shams. The proof and evidence from the authentic Sunnah about the things that we do on a daily basis as Muslims. And from those things that we do is to make Salat al-Maghrib at a specific time frame. And Salat al-Maghrib, as we have explained previously before, is one of the prayers from the 5 daily prayers which should be made as soon as it possibly can. It shouldn't be delayed. It shouldn't be pushed back unnecessarily. It isn't recommended to delay it like some other prayers are, such as Salat al-Isha, which will come in the following chapter, bid'inai ta'ala. And some of the ulama hold the view about Salat al-Fajr. Salat al-Fajr. Asfiru bil-Fajr. Many of the followers of the Hanafi madhab, they'll make Salat al-Fajr much later than the majority of the other schools. So you'll find many schools, for example, they make Salat al-Fajr, let's say 4 a.m. Mathalan, 4 a.m. And you'll find some Hanafi masjids, they'll make Salat al-Fajr at 4:45 a.m. And there's a considerable difference between 4 a.m. and 4:45 with regards to the lightness and the darkness of the sky, a considerable difference. And there is a reason why they do that. There is a reason why. There is a hikmah, there is a dalil that they have for that. Similar to Salat al-Asr, as we previously explained. As far as Salat al-Maghrib, then Salat al-Maghrib should be prayed as soon as it possibly can, with exceptions to making the 2 raka'ah after the adhan. With exceptions to making the 2 raka'ah after the adhan before the iqamah. Khairan inshaAllah. So therefore, the salah has fixed times. As we all know, any practicing Muslim knows this. Any non-practicing Muslim knows this. But learning it from the foundation, learning the original proof, learning the evidence from the beginning, and memorizing it and understanding it is a world of a difference. There are many things that are well known, that are well established in our belief system, and our practice, our worship, Islamic character. But many people, if you sat down and asked them, what's the dalil for that? They wouldn't know. Or they would just quote something vague in general. But they wouldn't be able to say, an fulan, akhrajahu fulan. And we've explained this many times before. And it's one of the most important etiquettes of a student of hadith, is to know the issues and to know the proofs and evidences and have the ability to quote them and have the ability to break them down and to explain them and have the ability to diversify the proofs and evidences to establish what's halal, what's haram, what's sunnah, what's bid'ah, what's tawheed, what's shirk. Very, very, very important. And that comes from you knowing, you memorizing, you studying, and you having a proper understanding of what you have memorized. And most importantly, you always quoting it and teaching it and passing it on to others. And what your brain, your mind is totally familiar with the information. It's totally familiar with the information. طيب, خير inshallah. So, the first hadith of the chapter, it says, Hadith Salamah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu قال كنا نصلي مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم المغرب إذا توارت بالحجاب. حديث رافع بن خديج رضي الله عنه قال كنا نصلي المغرب مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فينصرف أحدنا وإنه لا يبصر مواقع نبله. Hadith number 370 is narrated by Salama رضي الله عنه. We used to offer the Maghrib prayer with the Prophet ﷺ when the sun disappeared from the horizon. When the sun disappeared from the horizon. Hadith 371 is narrated by Rafi' ibn Khadij radiallahu anhu. We used to offer the Maghrib prayer with the Prophet ﷺ. And after finishing the Salah, one of us may go away and he could still see as far as the spot where one's arrow might reach when shot by a bow. When shot by a bow. So there are two hadiths in the chapter. The first is narrated by Salama and the second is narrated by Rafi', two of the companions of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. And this chapter's main purpose is to establish two things. Number one is to establish what's true, and number two is to refute what is false. Taqreerul haqq wa raddu muqabilihi. Establishing what's correct and rebuting what is opposite of that truth. This is when Maghrib is to be made based off of the authentic Sunnah, and this falsifies the people or some Muslims or people who say that they're Muslims when they make Maghrib at a different time. They make it later on. So that's the purpose of this chapter. And this is the 1-2 punch of the books that we study. And the ulama of Islam of past, when they would write a book, some of them would just do taqreer al-haq. They would just establish the truth. What is the ruling on mathalan, raising their hands on a salah, as an example? Or does iman increase and decrease, as an example? or the actions of the slaves created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as an example. Mathalan. So he writes a book in which he quotes the Kitab, the Sunnah, the Athar of the Sahaba regarding what the Muslim is supposed to believe, what the Muslim is supposed to believe, or what the Muslim is supposed to practice. And he doesn't specifically mention the other views or the opposers, al-mukhalifin. So it may be someone that he wrote the book about, but he doesn't necessarily mention him or mention his view or his opinion, but he just establishes the proof. And then we have a subtle undercurrent in which the author is refuting what he believes to be the falsehood in that issue. He's refuting it, but not directly. And then there are other books in which the ulama of Islam, they write, in which they directly go right towards the head of the batil. The book is written, the title, the first chapter, the first paragraph, Rad is refutation, rebuttal of this issue and of that view and of that belief. Whatever it is, aqidah, fiqh, hadith, whatever it may be. And obviously in refuting the falsehood, there's the subtle undercurrent of establishing the truth. And then we have certain books or certain chapters of books in which it's a hybrid, it's a mixture. The author establishes the authentic sunnah and also speaks, points to, gives a direction towards that which is against it. Alright? So here, this is when Maghrib is supposed to be made, and it's also refuting those who make Maghrib at another time. Khayran, inshallah, this is a very beneficial way of understanding the books of the people of knowledge. At-taqrir wal-rad. Establishing and demolishing. And sometimes there's a mixture of both. And it always goes back and forth like this, all the time. When you establish the truth, it disproves the opposite. And when you speak about the falsehood, and it is establishing the truth. Tayyib. So An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says here, معناه أنه يبكر بها في أول وقتها بمجرد غروب الشمس حتى ننصرف ويرمي أحدنا النبل عن قوسه ويبصر موقعه لبقاء الضوء. وفي هذين الحديثين أن المغرب تعجل عقب غروب الشمس وهذا مجمع عليه. وقد حكي عن الشيعة فيه شيء لا التفات إليه ولا أصل له. وأما الأحاديث السابقة في تأخير المغرب إلى قريب سقوط الشفق فكانت لبيان جواز التأخير كما سبق إيضاحه، فإن كانت جواب سائل على الوقت، وهذان الحديثان إخبار عن عادة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم المتكررة التي واظب عليها إلا لعذر فالاعتماد عليها والله أعلم. An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says here that these two hadiths, they prove that the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam will make Maghrib as soon as it came in. As soon as the sun set, it was time to make Maghrib without no further delay. So much so, or the companion Rafi ibn Khadij, he wants to give us a visual. And he says that if someone made Maghrib with the Prophet ﷺ and left the masjid, and he had a bow and arrow, and he shot the bow, he would be able to see where the arrow would land. Or if he threw a lance, a spear, he would be able to see where it landed. Meaning, after they finished Maghrib, not when the adhan was made, when the iqamah was made, but when the Maghrib was done, left the masjid, it still was relatively light outside. It was still relatively light outside. So it shows us that Maghrib does not have to be made when it's pitch black dark. And this also applies to other pillars of Islam, such as fasting. We just got finished the month of Ramadan. May Allah accept it from you. And the brothers and the sisters that are fasting for Shawwal. It doesn't have to be pitch black dark outside when it's time to break your fast. However, it is based off of, the hadith says, إِذَا تَوَارَتْ بِالْحِجَابِ. إِذَا تَوَارَتْ يعني الشَّمْس. When the sun set, is hidden, it's gone. Now it's time for the adhan. Even though it is still relatively light outside. Then obviously 8:30, 8:35, 8:40 is nothing like 7 p.m. 7 p.m. isn't like 6 p.m. 6 p.m. isn't like 5 p.m. There are levels of darkness, levels of sun, levels of shade. You can tell the time of the day by looking out the window. There's no question about that. But 8:30 is not like 10 p.m. 8:30 is not like 9:30 p.m. There's a huge difference between the color of the sky. So when Salat al-Maghrib comes in, once more, it does not have to be pitch black dark. It does not, and it should not, and it cannot be pitch black dark. Rather, as the hadith proves with this example, it should be relatively light outside. Now, we spoke many times before about the issue of modern technology, especially in light of the month in which we just fasted, and that is Ramadan. Moon sighting, calculation. How do you know when the sun sets? Where you live, how many buildings are there? You live near the airport. There are planes, there are towers. There's all types of technology, all types of man-made disturbance, all types of lights, static, all types of energy. Do you have the ability to see the sun setting itself? You live by a lake, you live by a river, the east coast, the west coast, Naam? Do you have the ability to accurately track the exact setting of the sun and the nature of our life or our lifestyles, our lives today is very, very contrast to that of yesterday. And the proof of that is found in no place further than your kitchen. And your kitchen is a refrigerator. A refrigerator. A refrigerator. One of the greatest blessings and one of the greatest curses upon man in the modern time is a refrigerator. Things were difficult back then. Hunting, fishing, planting, harvesting, growing things, eating, starving, wintertime. Harsh winter conditions, wild animals, rival tribes. People starved, people were attacked, people were raided, things like this. The refrigerator brought the ability for you to preserve food, drinks, fruit, vegetables, meat, fish. You can put something in a deep freezer and keep it for a year. And at your convenience, you unthaw it and you cook it and you eat it. So that's a blessing. And obviously the curse of the refrigerator is clear. Because you waste. You pack so much into the refrigerator and things go rotten, things go bad. When's the last time you've been in your refrigerator and cleaned it out? You'd be shocked the things that are in your refrigerator that have been there for months, just sitting there. And they're wasted, they're neglected, they're abandoned. Or oftentimes greed. You buy so much because you know that you have a refrigerator. So I buy 3 and 4 salad dressings, I buy this vinegar, I buy this cheese, this butter, I buy 50 things that I would never ever buy if I was going to take them home and eat them that day or the next day. Things that would spoil, things that would turn sour. So oftentimes the refrigerator causes greed. Oftentimes it causes loss and waste of wealth. And oftentimes it causes a person to be dependent and reliant. And he loses his natural human instinct of going out and getting fresh and eating fresh. And there are people who still eat fresh with a refrigerator, but everybody gets the point I'm trying to make. Everybody gets the point I'm trying to what? Trying to make, let alone electricity. We're not here to talk about the refrigerator in detail. I'm just trying to make a point. And that is how different our lifestyles are in comparison to the past. You compare a refrigerator to a deep freezer. You compare a deep freezer to an ice box, a dried ice. You compare an ice box to nothing. You compare an ice box to putting it in the snow, an igloo. You compare it to salted fish. It's reality. Putting meat in a brine to preserve it. Back on this? So our lives are totally different than the people back then. They relied upon nature to determine time, to determine seasons, to determine weather. When is the last time you've relied upon the natural way to determine those things? Including the time for Salatul Maghrib. Everybody understand this? And this is one of the key arguments of moon sighting versus calculation. You have a what in your kitchen? A refrigerator. A toaster oven at best. Maybe a microwave. Or neutral wave. Okay, you have an oven. How much charcoal do you have in your house? Or wood? You do what? You want to cook lamb chops, stew, a steak. The convenience is what? And you have full flame. And the list goes on. Electricity, running water.
No hard work.
The list goes on. It's still hard work, brother. It's just relative from time to time. The point is, that I'm trying to get to, is that your lifestyle is different than the lifestyle of the people back then. Everybody clear on this? The Prophet ﷺ, his message was universal for all times and places. And we know it states in the famous proverb, "Inna da'ifa amirur rakb." The Arabs, they say that the weakest man is the leader of the caravan. The weakest one is the leader of the caravan. In other words, the caravan doesn't move at the speed of the what? Of the fastest. It moves at the speed of the slowest and the weakest. So therefore, Islam gives you the ruling for the what? The lowest basic level. Wipe yourself, clean yourself with what? Stones. Not even water first. Stones. Have you ever done that in your life? Do you ever intend on using stones on your rear end? However, there are people in places, in situations that have to relieve themselves, answer the call of nature, quote unquote, and the only thing that they have to clean themselves is what? Stones. So if Islam said, if the Sharia said you have to use this amount of water, you have to use this type of sanitary wipe or napkin, you have to do this, you have to do that, then that would mean that the speed and the velocity will be where? At the highest. And everyone can't what? Can't do that. So it's made at the what? And it does not mean that you can't go higher. Do you understand the hikmah of the Sharia, akhi? Huh? Stones to clean yourself. If you have water, you have sanitary napkins, you have wet wipes, you have baby wipes, you have all of these things, you should what? Use them. But in a rough, when they say when push comes to shove, then you can use stones. So looking for the time of the prayer with the naked eye, that's the asl. And that's how it was back then. That doesn't mean that we do not understand and we do not use and benefit from the calculation of navigation, GPS, the compass today. And use the same principle of what? Of them. Because everything in the modern world is based off of the old way. Everything. Everyone understand this? GPS, global positioning system, isn't a novelty of man. It's old. It's based off of the what? The homing pigeon. Everybody understand this? Homing pigeon. Read about the homing pigeon and the ancient Egyptians and the Romans, and read about how they use this pigeon for everything, for war, for messages, for directions. And an interesting fact is that when you have a compass, whether it's digital or analog compass, a military compass, a compass on your iPhone, or on your Galaxy Note or whatever you have, before you use the digital compass, it says that you have to do what? Calibrate. Calibrate. Now, how do you calibrate a compass? That's only one way, to figure eight. There's also another way of spinning it and rotating it. And if you've ever had a homing pigeon, if you've ever seen them, when you put the message on their legs, and when you ship them and send them somewhere, you throw them in the air. And oftentimes the pigeons will spin around for 5 minutes. They'll fly in a circle. Then they'll take off to their destination. Allahu Akbar. So the point is that modern technology is based off of what? The old style. Okay? With regards to finding the north, many imprisoned slaves in the southern states, they found their way north how? Not through the North Star, but through moss. Moss on trees and rocks, because moss only grows northward. It only grows towards the north direction. So whenever they found moss, they would know they're getting closer to the what? The Mason-Dixon line. Everybody understand this? And now today we have electricity, we have technology, we can pinpoint location, Google Maps like that. The new technology is based off of what? The old way, the mind. Everybody understand this? A drill is based off of what? A screwdriver. It's all the same, it's just a different way of doing it. An intensified, amplified way of doing it. More power, it's easier, it's simpler. The refrigerator is based off of salting the meat, salting the fish, the salmon, the mackerel. Preserves it. It's no difference. It's just a different way and a heightened way of doing it. Why that? Huh? So the point is that Islam gives you the basic. And times will come, people will come, technology will come. Allah knows this. And the people will base their modern novelties off of the old ways. Everybody understand this or not? So if you're living a certain way, is it advisable for you to try to live another way? And everything around you, in front of you, in your house, in your pocket, is modern technology. And he says, I have to look for it with my own eyes. That doesn't add up but so much. Extremely inconsistent. Everybody clear on this? So therefore, the prayer schedule, the timetable, you are without a question, whether you like it or not, totally blind following someone. You're making complete taqleed of what the website says. Inshallah, it's a trustworthy website, a trusted website, a reliable website, in which there are Islamic scholars They're Islamic researchers, in which there are scholars of astronomy, scholars of navigation, scholars of time, worldly scholars as well. And then they come together and they produce 8:29 is when Maghrib comes in. 8:35 is when Maghrib comes in. 4:01 is when Fajr comes in. Based off of the what? Back in the day. And then wahakadha. So therefore, Maghrib comes in. If you can see it yourself, this hadith. If you can't see it, if you don't have the knowledge of the Arabic language, what does that mean? إِذَا تَوَارَتْ بِالْحِجَابِ. What does that mean? In Arabic, let alone comparing it to English, let alone comparing it to the modern urban city or the suburban area. So it's not a simple, easy task. And it's the same thing happens every year with regards to looking for the moon. Looking for the moon is a skill. And if you look for it in the wrong time, you will miss it. And you'll say, we didn't see it. But the moon came out. It's a specific and a direction and a height. Everybody clear this or not? And this is extremely important for those who attack Islam and the Sharia of Islam. They say it's outdated, it's prehistoric, it's the dinosaur, Stone Age, the Bronze Age, wiping yourself with stones. What is this? Cutting off the hand of the thief, so on and so forth. It's prehistoric, it's barbaric. But they don't have the understanding of wisdom. And the things that they eat, drink, sit on, ride on, travel upon are based off of old Stone Age barbaric ways as well. Everybody clear on this or not? It's nothing different. It's just made in a modern way, modified. Travel, warfare, it's all the what? The same, a projectile. A bow and an arrow is no different than a different type of a projectile. Shooting and launching something at your enemy. An explosive head arrow. Everybody understand this? An arrowhead that's on fire. It's all the same. One way or another, one scale or another. So we have to understand our Sharia is universal. It has no time. Certain things, certain rulings do change, yes. But never the core issues and never the core rulings. And a lot of confusion comes from people not understanding this principle. Those who are right wing and those who are left wing. Everything has to change in 2018. Everything. Kullu shay. And those who say nothing can change, nothing will change. And I want to read this statement of a scholar who lived 700 years ago, 1,000 years ago, and apply with no understanding, no tailoring, no trimming in New York City. Rigidly, absolutely. But that's hypocritical, because I said he goes into the refrigerator and he has a what? He goes into the kitchen and has a what? Refrigerator, a microwave, a smartphone. It's hypocritical. Everybody clear on this? So there has to be a balanced detail of what changes and what doesn't change. It's how Islam blends with technology, modern science, history. Tayyib. An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says that this means that they will make Maghrib when the sun set. When does the sun set? We just explained that. If you know yourself by looking at it or through the timetable. He says, and this is agreed upon, mujma'un alayh. There's no difference of opinion about Maghrib is to be made at this time, not later on. He then mentions what some of the Shia say, regarding to delaying Salat al-Maghrib. And this is what we're talking about, refuting the falsehood, rad. And he says this is worthless, is of no point of it being mentioned. Khairan inshallah. Bismillah. An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says, speaking about the other ahadith that aren't mentioned in wal-Marjan, just being in Sahih Muslim, about the Prophet ﷺ allowing the Maghrib prayer to be delayed and not to be made in its earliest time. He says that only proves that it's permissible, and it wasn't what the Prophet ﷺ always did. The Prophet ﷺ's normal habit was to make Maghrib early. And it's permissible for you to delay it, like the other prayers. And we've mentioned this before. So let's say Maghrib comes in what time? 8:30. And Isha comes in what time? On our calculated time. 10:15 it comes in, or the Iqamah? 9:30. Hour space between Maghrib and Isha? Or hour and a half? So let's say 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Netherlands, 10 p.m. Eastern time, right?
Yeah.
So 10 p.m. So it's permissible to make Salat al-Maghrib at 8:35. Recommended. They make the adhan at 8:30. You make your 2 rakats in the masjid. They make the iqamah. طيب. And it's also permissible, but not best, to make Salat al-Maghrib when? 9:50. It's permissible. 9:55. 9:45. 9:30. It's not best if there is a necessity. You're traveling I'm talking about suffer. I'm talking about like driving around in the city, moving around, moving about. You have something that you have to get done. You have a child is sick or has to use the bathroom. Whatever the case may be. It's permissible, but it's not something that you want to do. And the same applies to Asr, like we explained in detail. Like we did what? Explained in detail. So if you have a job in which you don't have a break at 8:30, but you get a break at 9:30, it's what? Permissible. Because Maghrib is still in. It's still what? Still in. طيب, moving forward. Next chapter. Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, or it says in the wal-Marjan, or before we move on, and perhaps we'll stop with these two hadiths. From the fiqh of these hadiths, first and foremost, is فيه مشروعية صلاة الجماعة, is that the jama'ah prayer is from the religion, and it is legislated in Salat al-Maghrib. Whereas he says we used to pray with the Prophet. We prayed with the Prophet. So that's Maghrib prayer being made in congregation. And it also shows us in the next hadith the permissibility of having weapons in Islam, and the permissibility of shooting weapons in Islam, whether it be a bow and arrow or other than that. And it also goes to show that there's nothing wrong with a person leaving the masjid after Salat al-Maghrib. If he wishes to stay and sit in a class or make dhikr or cry over his sins or read Quran or whatever you want to stay busy with in the masjid, that's fine. And if you choose to leave and go outside, is what? That's fine as well. Khairan, inshallah. So we're going to stop here with the ta'ala, and perhaps we'll leave some time for some questions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best.